Okay, good morning everybody. Welcome to our webinar for Spreadsheet Server for use with MRI Software. I'd like to thank you all for joining. And before we start with the demonstration, I'd like to run you through a few PowerPoint slides so we can cover a few things off. So first of all, we are TopUp consultants. We've been established for 20 years now. We're an independent real estate software consultancy. We pride ourselves on having multi-language leading professional services. And we have a London head office as well as a Central European office in Frankfurt in Germany. A few of the clients we work with on a day-to-day basis, as you can see here, some names you may see, you may recognise there. We are, of course, proud to be an MRI Software partner. So we are an MRI Software authorised service partner as well as an MRI authorised software partner. So today we're here to talk about Excel automation for MRI software using the product Spreadsheet Server, which is manufactured by a company called Global Software. Now, Global Software, a few facts about those. They currently have a huge, over 500,000 users. As you can see, they have over 420 partners around the globe, and they have 4,500 supported clients. They have offices based around the world as well. So as you can see, North America, Europe, APAC, and basically they offer a follow the sun support. So any licenses that you use via TopUp are first supported via TopUp, and then when we're finished for the day, Global Software then pick up, and it then follows the sun through to their individual offices. A few of the real estate clients that are using Spreadsheet Server from a Global Software perspective. As you can see, there's a couple that we have in common. And just some information about the product from other users. So you can see one of the key points here is that equity industry partners saved over more than 300 hours in 1 year by using Spreadsheet Server by automating up to 50 reports. And the whole point of that is that, Spreadsheet Server gives you the ability to keep within Excel. There's no rekeying, downloading, reformatting. It's all within Excel itself. And here we have the actual reality of Excel. Now, a lot of our very sophisticated ERP solutions may give the illusion that we no longer need to use Excel anymore. But the truth is that 80% of time spent outside of ERPs by executives is actually in Excel. So Excel is a very key tool for all of us, and we use it for a lot of our reports. As I mentioned, you start in Excel, you stay in Excel. So with Spreadsheet Server, it interacts with your ERP, with in this case MRI software. It allows you to give the drill down capability, allows you to create ad hoc reports, allows you to distribute that information very seamlessly. So you can stay within Excel from start to finish. So I'm going to move on now to the demonstration, and I'm just going to share my screen. So 1 second. Now hopefully you can all see my screen now. So what we have is an example of an income statement here, and this is linked to my underlying MRI database. Now, we have a set of parameters here, and this is obviously the MRI hierarchy. So we have client, portfolio, project, entity, basis, department, year, and period. And this first set of Spreadsheet Server interaction I'm going to show you is the GL plugin. So this is interacting directly with the general ledger. Now, if I change my period from period 1 to period 2, I'd like you to pay attention down here to the figures. By changing that information, what you'll see is that a call's been made to my MRI database, and it's pulled back the information for me. So we have some base rent figures there, as well as budget and variance. Now, these are nice, very high-level figures, but sometimes you want to know more than just high-level figures. You want to know what's behind them. So Spreadsheet Server allows you to drill down in a number of different ways to interrogate your data. So if I click on the drill down button here, this will then launch, and it gives me an overview of my data. Now, this drill down window can be customized to your requirements. So, as an example here, we have client, portfolio, project, entity, etc., as well as a description of the line item. But we can add more and more information to that. So anything you want to see in here, we can add within reason, obviously. Now, what we can also do in here is we can configure infinite levels of drill down. So what we're seeing is high-level GL figures here. But we can configure it to drill down to lower levels if we want to. So if you want to go down to perhaps the CM ledger level to look at the individual charges that were raised, or perhaps the receipts, or maybe even the AP ledger, so you can see what vendor the item relates to, you can do that. Now I mentioned there's multiple ways in which you can drill down. So as you saw then, I clicked on drill down and I had a pop-up window. I can also drill down I click drill down. I can also drill down to a worksheet as well if I want to. So I can say worksheet and results. Now then generate me a new worksheet out, which embeds a link and takes me back to the original cell. And this already comes pre-sorted as well, so you can use the standard Excel filtering and sorting functionality. Go back there as well. Now, another method of drilling down is what we call expanding a GL row. So what we have here is our nice little totals, but what I can do here is I can click on expand, and what that'll do, that'll push the information out to the page for me and then pull the information through. Again, all of these items below can also be drilled as well, so that one particular there, that 173216, I can see that'll add up there. This window as well can also be sorted, it can be grouped by dragging information up and down. We also have some options here on copying and exporting out to other formats, as well as changing the grid layout and adding in other subtotals and totals and grids and grouping, etc. Now, one thing you may notice as well is that where I'm having, for instance, client, portfolio, and even in the case of entity, I'm using a star after my selection there. And what that star enables is actually a wildcard. Now, the wildcard allows us to make use of fuzzy searching within our data. What I mean by that is what I'm saying in this scenario is I'm saying, show me all the entities that begin with 100. So if I look back at my drill down, I can see that I have lots of entities here that are 1000, 1001, 1002. And that's because I'm using the 100 star. Obviously, if I just want to look at, say, the 1002 entity, I can key that in. I'll just have that one particular piece of information there coming through. That's also particularly useful when it comes to accounts. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are very familiar with your charts of accounts, and you know, for instance, all of your accounts beginning with 5 are income, or your 2 accounts are expenditure, or your 2-1 accounts are income on service charge. And that's where Spreadsheet Server, again, comes into its use. So if I expand this left-hand side out here, these are the parameters for our accounts for our rows. So what you can see here is I'm saying, give me all my 5 accounts, or give me all my 8 accounts, or in this scenario, give me all my 8 and 9 accounts, or give me all my 2 accounts with a 1 in the middle. So I'm seeing the structure here of how I'd like to lay out the information on that account. Another column here, as you can see, we have budget. So not only can we pull GL actuals through, but we can pull budgets through, and we can compare them side by side. Now, what we commonly get when we're demonstrating this is that we get a question normally like, wow, that looks really impressive, but how long would it take me to build something like that? And to answer that question, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to build a very simple quarterly comparison report for you. So we're opening a brand new worksheet, and I'm going up to the top, and I'm going to select build a template. This will then launch a wizard with our criteria on it. So starting from the top, it asks which worksheet we'd like the information to be put onto. Now, obviously, we've already selected worksheet 7, so that's selected for us. The database you're connected to is MRI. So in the scenario where you would have multiple databases, you can select that from there. The budget name, so if you want to pull a budget through, you'd select the budget name there. The year in which you're going to make your selections, I'm going to say, my data is quite old in this example, so I'm going to say 2011. Then we have some more options here as well. So we have period, QTR for quarter, DQTR. That allows you to define your own quarter dates yourself. So that's a setting we set up in the background, and then you can say DQTR, and you can play around with the dates for your own quarter, so you can define them if you want to. Year to date, life to date, and a range. So maybe you might want from period 2 to period 5, so you can define a range in those. So I'm going to say QTR in this example, and I'm going to say quarter 1 to begin with. Where we'd like the information to start, column A, row 1, that's fine. This is to do with how Spreadsheet Server talks to MRI, and this is some settings basically. If you loading data on an existing worksheet, whether you want to clear it out, and the ability to skip row or invert our signs. Now, this is our default account segments we have within MRI, but we can also add additional ones on there. So if you have any customization, maybe around maybe some attributes around entity, or maybe a different level that you've introduced through the MRI toolkit, we can also factor that in very easy as well. All of the items that you look up on here, you don't have to memorize all your account codes, you don't have to memorize all your entity IDs. All of the items here can be opened from the ellipse button. The ellipse button then gives you a listing of all your information, and that can then be filtered down by, if you look through, or by either the account number or the actual description itself. So if you're looking for service charge, I don't have that description because I have an anonymized database, But if I had, for instance, service charge there, I could filter that down by service charge, etc. Okay. So the next thing we have here is our row and column identifiers. So that's where we want to see our data on a row basis or a column basis. So I'm going to select most of my items as a column, and I'm just going to leave my account as a row basis. Again, I'm going back to the similar selection we had before. So on my entity, I'm just going to use my 100 entities. And in my accounts, I'm just going to use my MR5 account range. So I'm just going to MR5 star, just to keep it nice and simple for this demonstration. I'm going to insert that on the page, and what you'll see straight away there is for 2011, for Q1, I have that balance for my MR5 accounts. Again, as we had before, we can drill that information. I can expand the GL row if I want to. There we go. And I can collapse that way. Now, if I wanted to look at other quarters, obviously I could just go Q2. Let's expand that a little bit more so we can see the amounts. Q3, Q4. But as Spreadsheet Server is all formula based, it's Excel, we can simply just copy the column and paste it into the subsequent ones, and then just add our changes through. At any point, if I want to change my criteria, again, I don't have to think, oh no, what was that account number? Oh no, what was that entity ID? By clicking on any of the cells where our information's there, for instance, entity ID, and I hit this locate segment button, this will then bring me a filter list and then allow me to then go through and then select my entities that I want to include in there as well. So I might also want to include, let's say for instance, 1, 2, 3 as well. So I'll click on that. That'll then not update that. Again, being Excel, everything could be formula driven. So you can actually make very nice looking reports even without this information at the top here, because this can only be moved to another sheet and you can just reference your formula from that. Likewise, even here, if I want to just make this cell equal to that cell plus 1, so I don't have to worry about changing it every single time, we can do that. So yeah, so there's, as you can see, very nice and easy. And likewise for my account segments at the bottom, again just copy and paste, and now just by changing the information there, as you can see, it's very, very easy to build up those powerful reports. Okay, so moving on very slightly, just to go on a little bit further about it still being Excel, we have an example here of a property comparison report. Now, this is just using a combination of Spreadsheet Server and Excel formula and graphing functionalities. So we have here our year, I have my 4 properties, and all I've got here is a graph based on this data, some conditional formatting, but it turns into a really nice interactive dashboard. So if I change my year to 2011, that will go away, pull back my information, the graph will update and show me the information accordingly. And again, you know, this looks quite impressive. There's nothing for 2013 there. It looks quite impressive, but it's just basic Excel functionality here. So it's Excel formula and with a combination of Spreadsheet Server data. And if you're using this with MRI, your data is live. If you're on-prem, you can have a direct connection to your MRI database. If you're using MRI SaaS, we can have a connection from your Spreadsheet Server through to your SaaS. So literally, you can post a journal in your MRI, come in here, refresh your data, and it will pull through that particular journal as well. So it is real time within MRI as well, so which is good. That's good. Okay, so that's the GL side of Spreadsheet Server. So as you can see, there's a lot of power there, and you can do some really, really cool and really nice reports from that. I'm going to move on now to what we call is the query design side of Spreadsheet Server. Now, I won't show you the query builder in this example because it's a little bit more involved and it's not really suitable for a webinar, but I'll show you the results of it. So the query builder here, we have an example of a debtors. So what this allows us to do is very much like with our GL balance, we can have a quick balance, but we can also have some detail there as well. What I mean by that is, if I want to see what my debtors position is, let's be crazy. Let's say for all my buildings, for all my leases, this is my debtors balance at the moment. Now I can drill into that information if I want to look at it on an analysis basis. And I say, okay, I'm quite interested in 500,490, that building there. So here I can say 500,490, and that gives me that balance there if I want to. Again, I can drill down on that on its own, or I can hit this generate reports button at the top here, and this will then spit out the information on a lease by lease basis for me. So I can see the high level balance now on a lease by lease basis for that information. So you can build these reports, and all these reports are completely customizable. So you decide what the content of these reports are. They could be anything you want from any part of the MRI database. And it can also link to sources that you may have within your organization as well. So long as you've got a common key between your MRI data and other data, let's say, for instance, you deal with, and you want to incorporate footfall data into this. As long as you've got a common denominator between your data in MRI and your common data in your footfall system, you can link the two up using this tool. We also have the ability to do what we call a quick query. So my example there, when I'm looking at my building 500-490, and I've got my information on my leases here on high-level balances, but I might want to see the detail that relates to those invoices. So I might want to see what invoices are outstanding for that particular lease or for that particular building as a whole. Now, we have this option called at the top here called query, and I can say outstanding invoices. Now, we're not talking ones that are really good, we're talking invoices that haven't been paid. So if I say 500-490, now I can hit execute on that, and that will show me all of them, as you can see. And I can see line by line here my invoices. I want to filter that down by lease. Let's maybe say lease number 3. Again, I can close that, and in this window, just close that quickly. Oh, it seems to have locked to me. So excuse me. You'd be able to look at the individual invoices that came through for that information. So the third and final section of Spreadsheet Server is the distribution manager. Now, the distribution manager is used for, as it says on the can, distributing information. And the reason we need the distribution manager is for a number of things. So if we come back to our income statement here, as you can see, the formula using this is a GXL formula. And what that means is that if I was to open that GXL, this spreadsheet, without the Spreadsheet Server plugin, I would get lots of NAs in my fields there, so I wouldn't be able to see the values. So in order for you to be able to output this to other people who would like to use it, you need to use a distribution manager. It's also very good for compiling things like report packs, outputting to other formats. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new control sheet here, distribution. This then launches a wizard for me, and I can decide what it is I want to do with my data now. So I can say I want to save it, I want to email it, I want to print it, and I want to output it as Excel spreadsheets, a CSV, as HTML documents, as a PDF document, or as a Word document. So there you have the flexibility to say, okay, I want to output it as maybe a PDF reporting pack, or just another Excel spreadsheet that other people can use. In this example, I'm just going to say it's another Excel spreadsheet. But as you can see there within Excel, we have multiple different options here. So you can output it as a XLSX, as a XLSM, so macro enabled, or as a standard XLS, so maybe the older format. If you use it as Excel, it'll output it as a standard, whatever version of Excel you're using it with. So I'm just going to call this output MRI, and my name of my document. And where do I want to output it? It opens the file navigation. I'm just going to save it to my temp directory. Now, top here, modify cells. So this is if we want to modify any data here before we output it. And what I mean by that is that you saw me earlier when I was changing parameters such as period, year, quarters, entity IDs. So in here you can specify what those values you want to change are. Or if you literally just want to output it, you don't have to put anything in there. You can select the sheets you want to output. So I want to output my income statement, and I want to output my property comparison report into this spreadsheet. We have the ability to hide 0 lines. So if you're outputting maybe a trial balance, you have the opportunity there to hide any 0 movement, and just so you can see the actual movement. You can do that as a blanket across all of them, or just on an individual basis. You have the ability to protect the work. If it's a worksheet output, you have the ability to protect it. And then we have the convert formulas to option. So we have the option to just convert the global formulas, all the formulas, or don't convert any forms. I'm just going to leave this as global formulas only for now. A few more options at the bottom here. Would we like to recalculate it, generate the GXEs, GXEDs? And that's basically what that's saying is, do we want to refresh all the reports before we output them, or do we want to leave them as they are? In this example, I'm just going to say leave them as they are. I'm going to say push that. So once you've got your configuration set up there, all you have to do to run that output, that distribution, is hit that distribute button. And what that will do, that will then run through the distribution manager. And once that's complete, that will output that to the temp directory. So I'll just open that now. Temp. You see there, I've got a spreadsheet output MRI. Let's open it up now, and you can see I have just my income statement and my property comparison report, and all of my global formulas are gone, just leaving me with the variance formula that I had there in the first place. Okay. So before we move on to the questions section, if there has been any, if I just return back to the presentation. So to give you an idea of how the global software licensing works, is that it comes in 3 different editions. Now, when you purchase Spreadsheet Server from Global Software, you have to buy at least 1 platinum license, which includes all the bells and whistles. So it includes the query designer, the building template functionality. The level below that one is what are called the gold license, and the gold license allows you to do everything except for the query designer. And what I mean by the query designer is that the query designer allows you to build the non-GL queries. So the ones that interrogate, like you saw my debtors example earlier, and the invoice balances, and the other examples. However, it still gives you full functionality to build all the GL queries, use all the formula assistants, the distribution manager, etc. Now, the limited license is there purely for only running reports other people have built. So that will be an example of GL reports that have been built for you already. You can't then go into build a template and build a quarterly comparison report. You would only be able to run the quarterly comparison report or the income statement that you produced. Okay, so have there been any questions at all? Let's have a little look. Where is the data stored? So the data is actually stored within your MRI database. No data is downloaded. There's no data warehousing going on. The only thing it does is it takes through that balance, that value that you're outputting at that time when you're running your spreadsheet. No backend, no large amounts of data stored. It literally is just the value you're pulling through. There's the data downloaded. Okay, it's not. So basically, it links live to your MRI database. So there's no download of database. In terms of license costs, we can provide those after the call if anyone's interested in it. So we will follow up with a email after this call, just giving you information. I believe we're also going to send out the recording of the webinar as well. So should you have any further questions after that, though we haven't answered, please feel free to let us know. So just while we're waiting now, sorry, there's one more here. So what's the compatible versions of Excel that's available within Spreadsheet Server? So it's compatible with Excel 2010 onwards. Anyone using Office 365 perfectly works with that as well, so there's no problems with that. Doesn't work with the online version of Excel. Has to be the downloaded version, which is installed on your local machines. But yes, absolutely, it's available on everything from 2010 onwards. For those of you maybe using 97, I think there is still a version that works with it, but I don't imagine there's very many of you around anymore. Does this also work with MRI residential management? Absolutely, yes, it can work with MRI Resi. That's not a problem. Does the Spreadsheet Server user also have to be a user in MRI? No, it doesn't. So basically, when you purchase a license of Spreadsheet Server, you will have it linked up to your MRI database, and you do not need an MRI license, an MRI user license, excuse me, to run the reports from Spreadsheet Server. So there can be different licenses. Do we offer a trial? Yes, there are trials that are available. You do have to have if you're using MRI SaaS, you do have to have an MRI SaaS connection established as well in order for the trial to be working on. Okay. Can you lock Spreadsheet Server down so people can only access what they want them to? Yes, you can. So we can, very much like how virtual site works within MRI or entity security, you can set up users in Spreadsheet Server so that you can lock them down in terms of what parts of the account segments that we saw earlier they can access, so what entities they can see. It gets a little bit difficult when you're going down any further than accounts, than certain accounts levels as well, but it can be done depending on what it is you're looking to achieve. We have another one here. Can we create queries to join any tables we want with a platinum? Yes, you can. So absolutely any tables within the MRI database you can connect, and you can even, if you have perhaps internal databases. So let's say I have an example here of one of my clients who are a retail have retail property, and they have a separate system which collects footfall and turnover-based sales data. So what they're able to do using the Spreadsheet Server Query Designer tool is that they can connect to the two databases together and report in one single place. But yes, in answer to your question, you can create queries to join any tables you want to with Platinum. That's correct, yeah. Okay, I don't think there's any more questions. So I would like to thank you all very much for your time this morning / this afternoon, depending on where you're joining from. It's been a pleasure. If you do have any more questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Can you report on MRI Job Cost? Yes, absolutely. You can report on MRI Job Cost. There is job code, I believe, at the GL level as well, so you can add another segment called Job Cost or Job Code at the GL, and you can also produce separate reports on job cost as well. So yeah, absolutely. The last user just posted a question. You can certainly report on MRI Job Cost. As I said, it's a very flexible tool, and you can report from any part of the MRI database, so as well as other sources as well. So they're all available to you. Okay. So unless there's any more questions, again, I'd like to thank you all for your time. Any questions, please feel free to respond to the email you'll be sent very shortly. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks very much. Goodbye.